Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Joe. I am here with your other host, Mike. Welcome to the Red Pill University. Class is in session. Tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about the 16 Commandments by Hartisti, aka Royce.
Mhm.
I have invited him before and never heard anything back. I know he's in the DC region, somewhat relatively close to where I'm at. And it's like trying to pull teeth to get these guys on the show sometimes. But we still have the website is out there now at hartisti.org. You can find his blog online at that URL.
Interestingly, this post was made, I think, nearly a year, almost exactly a year ago.
Well, it is, but this
It's
actually
not,
goes.
it's not
This is
new
like
stuff. Yeah.
no. Well, so his whole blog got taken down because it was a WordPress blog, and they decided nope, no more. So
Yep.
he created his own website, and that's when it all got reposted. This article goes back, I don't know, maybe 10 years
Oh, yeah.
thereabouts.
Oh, I'm sure.
Something
I'm
like
sure
that.
it's much older than that. It was just interesting. It popped up and said, I think May 19th. And I was like, oh, it's a week out from being a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, this stuff is fundamental. So it's really, the good feedback we've been getting on the channel is we're covering a lot of the fundamental stuff. So let's dive right into it.
All right, so we will bring up our tried and true little ta-da.
There it
Hope
is.
you guys can see it. If not, we can always full screen it. But for right now, we'll leave it right here. So the first one, this is pretty impressive. Never say I love you first, and it all comes down to investment levels. So it's trying to get your mind straight. You are the prize. You don't want to tip your hand too soon and give away all the mystery and intrigue. I gotta flip the page.
No, this is the same as when you post on Twitter on around the body language stuff, right? Of like, never be leaning in, never be chasing in terms of body language. This is the metaphorical kind of, you don't want to proceed too fast because it comes down to second bullet, right? Which is be the prize.
Yeah. And like you, I love the saying that you've got, relationships are women's responsibility. That's such a clutch phrase. I love that.
100%.
And also, you mentioned Twitter, just to kind of throw this out there, because I always forget this.
Mhm.
We have Twitter. I have the links. Hit me up sometime. I'll have them all down in the description below. If this is your first time with us, please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I always forget these calls to action. My
Totally.
God, they're so clutch. But yeah, I don't want to get too off the market here. So
No, you're spot on. The reality is guys are going to go through this content and they're going to think something's valuable and they'll just forget to click on the subscribe button. So look, do us a favor. It's going to, and the real reason why is it doesn't, it doesn't really matter to us. We want to give this content out to you guys and have people, receive it and get value out of it. But the main piece is that you're going to get a notification, whenever there's a new video or something popping up that we're putting out. Joe's been really great about putting out the little clips that we will cover one concept where it's an excerpt from a show and it's 10 minutes and that stuff's great. So subscribe and you'll get all that great content hitting you up with notifications for sure.
So back to number one.
Relationships are a woman's responsibility. I cannot stress this enough. So when you talk about getting into a relationship, Rhinestone has a great post on this. Men can foster the circumstances of a relationship and be open to one, but you cannot make a relationship happen in and of yourself. And it's kind of an oversimplification to say like, well, relationships takes two people, and it does, but women are conditioned and socialized to make relationships happen. So we talk about things later on that we're going to talk about, like spinning plates, stuff like that. Plates spin themselves, right? If you have to put in the effort into the relationship, and if you're having to actually, set the terms, and she's not she doesn't want to abide by them, then that's not somebody, you're not vetting for desire, right? So this goes back to make sure you got, exactly what you're looking for out of a woman that desires you, right? So that's the third bullet point.
Yep. And then also it's like I said, you're the prize. They've got to work for your commitment. And we've always said this before. This goes back a long ways. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. Men are traditionally the gatekeepers of commitment. And that's all of it kind of bound together in one succinct term, I believe.
Yeah. And I love you is a big commitment. You're committing to an emotional connection with her.
And the implication also is that you're cutting off your access to other opportunities. Generally speaking, there's going to be outliers too when you got open relationships and all that, but polyamory and all and whatnot. But for most folks in the middle of the bell curve, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, if you've gone out of your way to qualify it, maybe this doesn't apply to you, but 9 times out of 10, I would agree. Just as an aside note, did you actually, do you ever get into a situation where you said, I love you first? Because I can't recall one.
Probably when I was younger.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you make mistakes when you're younger for sure.
Yeah.
That's the time to make them. But yeah, my wife now, she was the first one to say, I love you. And it actually kind of surprised me at the time. And interestingly, and I don't want to go too deep into this story, but it was a story when like her friend of hers needed help and I was there and her friend said, thank God and I swear to God, this is a direct quote from her friend. I'm not just trying to, boost my ego here. Her friend said, thank God there's an alpha male here. If just in case stuff goes wrong, because she had like a crazy ex-boyfriend or whatever it was and had to move out. Anyway, long story short, after that happened, my wife and I were dating at the time, and it was like 2 separate cars, and I was in go mode, and she stopped me and was like, I love you. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. I love you too, but we got to go.
All right. Right and to the point. I love it. It's just cool.
Yeah.
All right. So back to this way. Yeah, this way. Okay. Number 2, make her jealous. Dread does a body good. This comes down to pre-selection, social proof. Now, when we say dread does a body good, it's talking about women trying to kind of keep your attention and affection. It goes back to kind of point number 1 as well, that you're the prize. They should be trying to seek your commitment. So by keeping them somewhat on their toes. Now, I'm not saying to always have them walking on eggshells, and flirting with other women is fine, but maintain plausible deniability.
100%.
Do you want to talk a little bit why that is so key?
Yeah, why it's so key is, the women have a rationalization hamster. There's a lot of guys who cover this content, but really they want to dig into the underlying reasons as to why you're doing something. And you want the outcome to be, oh, because he's a high value male and he's the prize, and that's just how he is. That's how you naturally are. I'll give you an example. My wife's birthday, we were out, had a bunch of friends that were her friends there, and I started talking to the bartender. We started kind of running game on her, just flirting, and I didn't want anything out of the bartender except good service, right? End of the night, we were going to pay the tab, all that stuff, and I walked behind the bar, gave the bartender a hug, and I was like, "Thanks so much. I'll catch you later. Like, maybe I'll see you again next time." Da 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 da. And then the next day, of course, my wife asked, like, "Why you hugged that bartender last night?" And I said, "Honey, I was hugging everybody last night. Like, what? That's, of course I was. That makes sense." And so she wasn't surprised that she laughed it off because that's the kind of guy I am. But there's the plausible deniability, right? Yes, I made it a point to talk to that bartender because I wanted her to understand that, yeah, I'm capable of talking to women, right? I can hold a conversation with women. They can be interested in me. So that's a good example.
I love your green screen in the background.
Yeah, this is wonderful. It's better than the Office, that I normally have.
It's such so
the lighting and the angle is a lot better on this one. But yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into dread, and there's an order of operations to it. So more on that to follow. But I think it comes down to social proof, pre-selection, and honestly, going back to the be the prize mentality is you need to be able to, don't look like the Michelin Man, right? Dress for success, that type of thing.
Yep. All right. So number 3, you shall make your mission, not your woman, your priority. See also status. Women should be, like it says right here in the second bullet or first bullet, women should be a value-added benefit of your success, not your mission in of its own right. Now, you got a lot of celebrities, you got a lot of rock stars and all this who want to do it because they want to be creative. But then you got guys like Kiss who wanted to get laid, so they said, let's make a band. And that's kind of how they got started. So
there you go.
That's one way of going about it, not necessarily the recommended path. So you want to try and build your empire for yourself, because then you'll have the long-term success and access to women throughout your life. The Hugh Hefner effect. So
that's important. Women don't want you doing it for them.
That is true. Well, generally, yeah, that is generally true. There's exceptions always. Let's see here.
I think if you here's the key distinction that I would make. If you can get a woman to subscribe to your mission and that you want to be a leader, or you want to have a family, or you want to be a successful business person, if you can get her to buy into that
Mhm.
and go along with that, like totally, you can share and give of yourself to her, understanding that she's still on board with exactly what it is that you want to be in life and what you want to do in life. And I think
Yep.
really what it comes down to is acceptance for who you really want to be.
Well, I think this is also it kind of dovetails nicely into frame control and also having that captain first officer dynamic. So if you can,
100%.
if you're screening properly and if you want long-term relationships, that's a really solid way to go about it.
I like that distinction, because when you talk about the captain metaphor, there is the difference between being a good captain and having a good mission. And I think mission is something we could do a deep dive on and spend all day on. And I think still probably, people would get value out of that conversation.
Yep. And I still have, like I said, we've already got the status video. I think I linked it down below. If not, I'll have to add it later. If you go into the channel and look at the Sunday status report, I think it was episode 3 was all about status. And also
that was a great episode.
Thank you. The second bullet here, women, I think it was Rich Cooper. He always quotes, I forget who it was that he quotes, but it's a legit statement.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't care about the competition. They just care about who won. Women love winners.
That's totally true. They don't want to be the referee. They just want to sleep with the guy that hoists the trophy. They don't let the guys decide. And when the guys decide who's the best, then that's the guy I'll go to.
It's really interesting how that dynamic kind of takes place. The guy could have come in second place in the entire whatever it was, beat out hundreds, if not thousands of people. But if he lost to the number one guy, he's still a loser. And that you can see this all the time with in sports, where they just kind of, nope, now next. They just move on to it's nasty.
It is. It's like the Glenn Ross effect. It's the first place is Cadillac Eldorado, second place is Set of Steak Knives, third place is You're Fired. That's it.
If you guys haven't seen it, good movie. At least
go watch that.
That sequence is amazing. The whole scene.
There's your homework for this week: is go watch Glenn Ross. That's a fantastic film.
Big brass balls. All right,
that's it. All right, number 4.
Don't play by her rules. And this kind of touches on the feminine imperative. It's just a giant shit test. Now, what I mean by this is by playing by her rules, you end up getting on the defensive. You're not operating with good frame control. You're walking on eggshells. This is never a fun place to be. So you got to really reframe this in your mind and get your head straight. This is all inner game stuff. All right.
It's interesting because when you actually go through and read the commandments, the first sentence really stands out. If you allow a woman to make the rules, she will resent you with a seething contempt even a rapist cannot inspire.
That's
and it's really colorful language. And the reason it's colorful is because it's designed to make an impact of if you just do whatever it is and submit to whatever it is your woman wants just to make her happy. And that's great in theory, and everybody can kind of understand theory, but in practice, what does that mean? Don't be driven by her emotions. That aloof piece. We've talked about this on previous shows, but I'd love to get your take, Joe, on exactly what it means to be aloof and have that not be rattled by anything, calm, cool, and collected, courage under fire type of approach.
And this is what we talked about, I think it was last week with the Iron Rules of Tomasi, where guys are supposed to be the stoic, non-reactive, not unemotional, but you want to be the rock. Like when women project energy, this emotional energy, this excitement, when they're getting all frazzled, they want you to be the guy that they can reflect off of. What I mean by that is when they throw all this energy at you, you're unfazed by it, you're unreactive, you are the rock, the control, so that they're going to mirror your emotional state. If you get all nervous and frazzled, they're going to get nervous and frazzled. If you're cool, calm, and collected, they're going to calm down. So that's where you want to be. So you're not going to be getting, you're not playing by the rules in that sense, where you're not getting upset or you see what I'm saying? You get the gist of it.
Yeah. No, there's a great article about this. I don't think it was Rollo, but I can't remember who wrote this. And it was women are like water. They fill the shape of the container that they're given, right? Which your job as a guy is to be that container, right? And if you are rigid and you're, for example, a plastic bag is not the best container for water, right? It's not. Like, go to the grocery store, get a plastic bag. It's not easy to hold water in that container, but a nice glass cup or a steel pot is a great. You get the metaphor. The point is, if you create that rigid structure, they will take the form of that, right? They will adapt to the circumstances.
That's one way. I still prefer me personally. I prefer the metaphor for the mirror, just because it's something that I've always known. It's one of those things that once you've kind of come to accept it and you understand it, it sticks with you. So the key takeaway here is that as it says over here, don't play by her rules. Mm-hmm. You don't want to fall into their frame. That's the number one thing. It's all about frame control.
The other thing I have written down here is you have to look at their actions and not their words, right? And
actions speak louder than words, always.
It's always important to consider that. We haven't introduced this yet on the channel, but I have a personal rule. Mike's rule is 90% of what women say is not to be taken at face value. And what I mean by that is it comes from a fleeting place of, this is what I feel right now and I'm just expressing this, or this is frustrating me, this has been on my mind and I just needed to get it out, and it doesn't actually hold any meaning. I don't want you to actually really consider this in a deep way. 10% of it is super valuable, and if you can get that calibration down, you've really got yourself a good position. But 90% of this is just my personal rule. 90% of what women say you cannot take at face value.
All right, so moving on. All right.
Number 5,
adhere to the golden ratio. This is the 2 to 3 rule. So, or 3 to 2, however you want to look at it. For every
compromise.
There you go.
Right? Yeah.
So for every 3 I love yous they send you, you're going to give them 2 back. Or if they text you 3 times, you give them twice back. Mm-hmm. So that's the general ratio. It's a rule of thumb. Now, the purpose of this is to keep you from being overly invested in one person. Mm-hmm. Now, in this terms of, I got one of my notes right here, it all goes back to keeping them chasing. Also rule number 1. It's all about
them chasing. Get them chasing and keep them chasing.
Bingo. Let's see. I think we've already covered that. So number 6, keep her guessing. Mm-hmm. I love it. This is so clutch. Familiarity breeds contempt.
It really does.
You have a really good corollary to this as well.
Yeah, the corollary to this is absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Which is, there's one part of the 16 commandments that we talked about, which is people value what they work for. The other thing is people value scarcity, right? So if you are scarce with your time, if you don't provide a ton of comfort, right? If you're not running out and just spewing your emotions out toward women, then when you do open up and you do say, you know what, you make me really happy, or the time that we spend together means a lot to me, you express that gratitude, it means so much more, right? Yep. And that's there's a common theme here when you talk about golden ratio, don't chase them, all that stuff. Keep her guessing is just this sense of mystery of, is he going to actually open up today, or is it today the day that I'm going to get that excitement, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But that sense of intrigue is absolutely key, and it does go back to, when it's related to number 4. When you think of like not taking a woman's statements at face value, if you don't take anything seriously and just laugh it off, they don't really know how to gauge your true self, and you're keeping that shielded, right? And I don't mean in an unhealthy way. What I mean is you choose when you want to show your true self to people, and you choose when you want to connect with them. And that's exactly what number 6 is about, is keep her guessing, keep her on her toes. And then when you want to actually engage and be honest, then you can do that, and it's going to hold a lot more value.
Yep. And also, like one of the bullets right here says, never come right out and say you like them. It takes away all that mystery and intrigue. So if you don't know where you stand with each other, think about whenever you don't know if a girl likes you. How does that feel? It gives you that little bit of excitement. You're not really sure where you stand. You latch onto the texts. You're happy to get them. It gives you a little bit of an elation. You got to do that for her. So if you come right and say, "Oh yeah, I totally like you. I'm going to text you every day. Every time you text me back," and you just go full blah.
You're spoiling the excitement.
Exactly. You're just taking right. You said it right there. You take all the excitement away. That's
literally. And the thing is, what young guys have to understand, especially young guys, is that
Yeah.
the excitement is a dopamine hit in the brain that you want them to actually get excited and addicted to. You want a reaction. I'm talking about a positive, healthy reaction where she goes, "Oh my God, he texted me today. I'm really excited about that." Right? That's what you want to foster in your relationship. This is all about fostering the right things in your relationship. And when you go back to number one, which is don't tell her I love you first, or don't tell them you like them first, the caveat here is it's not don't initiate, right? It's not don't go up and not talk to a woman, or don't run game, or don't initiate. When you talk about sexual escalation, that's a whole different topic, but definitely initiate, but don't come right out and be overt about your feelings. Your feelings should be subordinate to your mission and the way that you actually want to operate and get what you want in life.
Boom. Nothing more to be said. That's awesome. Let's see.
Number
Always
seven.
keep number 7. Always keep 2 in the kitty. This is best summarized as spin plates. Done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over to
a little bit related to dread, but
yeah.
there are the thing I have written down for this is there are 2 pieces to this, which is capability and opportunity, right? So when you talk about it, and maybe for the guys that don't really know what keep 2 in the kitty means, what that means is keep your options open. Have 2 other women that you can text, that you can call, right? If you're dating, you should not be just focused entirely on one woman, right? And by the way, women do this naturally. Women are socialized to do this. Women are socialized to keep all their options open until they find that guy that they want to be with and consolidate on them. Rolo talks a lot about this.
Even then, they still have orbiters and the guy friends. He's 100%. Just a friend. You hear this all the time. So, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show before. So if you don't know what an orbiter is, go watch the previous episodes when we do the terms and concepts. It's in there. We covered it already. But yeah, women, when they call it spinning plates, it's just them having orbiters. Orbiters for guys is spinning plates.
That's the status quo for them, is they want a dearth of a whole plethora of guys to be able to choose from.
And a lot of times they serve different roles. For guys, it's mostly, like we said before, it's just keeping your options open. Now, in the blog, he actually has a really good point about this. When women want to, their final trump card is pulling away their affection and attention. Same way guys can do the same thing. But the point being is you'll never flounder. You'll never really have a huge hit to your ego if you have other options lined up and ready to go. So it's kind of like a safety net for guys in a sense. Now, I'm not saying that you should have women ready to call up, if you break up and you've been kind of leading people on and you're already in a relationship. Not quite the same thing. But the idea is that you have a social circle where that if things do go wrong with your primary relationship, that you could very quickly recover. We'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. You should be, and there's, the thing I've written down is there's 2 components to this.
Oh yeah.
There's capability and opportunity, right?
Okay.
If you're dating a woman and she knows fully in the back of her mind that you are capable of going out and getting dates with another 5 women next week, that creates a different level of dread and status, and she will respond to you differently.
Absolutely.
Right? She's not going to give you a bad attitude. She's going to value your time. She's going to know that, why would this guy tolerate my nonsense when he can actually go out and get dates with other women next week? No problem at all. So that is capability. But the other thing is opportunity, right? So if you are a high value male and you get shipped off to, Afghanistan, and you don't have any opportunity to be, talking to women or whatnot, because there's only guys out there and you're in the middle of the desert, that dread is not effective. It doesn't work. And that's why a lot of guys run into trouble in that situation. You have to have the opportunity, meaning you have to actually put yourself in situations where you're going to be social, where you're going to be exactly what I talked about earlier. You're going to be actually talking to women, God forbid. There's an order of operations with dread. But when you socialize, and actually put these ideas into practice of, I don't want anything from this woman except for I'm going to try and have a conversation with her and have that go well. Just enter and exit a conversation, those types of things. So not to get too much off on a tangent here, but you cannot run dread unless you have capability and opportunity. Those are the 2 pieces.
Opportunity. And this is also another way of saying abundance.
Totally. Totally. That definitely ties into abundance.
Absolutely. So number 8. Say you're sorry only when absolutely necessary. Sorry, and so this is I'm a huge fan of the non-apology. I'm sorry you feel this way. This is kind of a Bill Clinton kind of way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So we had some notes here as well.
Yeah, the trouble with that is you don't want to run the risk of being invalidating, right? It's
Yes, you definitely want to acknowledge their feelings.
women are all about
Mhm.
they want to be emotionally validated. And I mean, don't we all, but especially women. And the thing there is a real apology comes in two components, and it's sorrow and regret,
There it is.
right? Like and so in terms of the I'm sorry, I had the best advice I had about I'm sorry was given to me by a priest, and he said the two words you'll never need to say ever again are I'm sorry. It's always better to say forgive me. And I think that's much more alpha, right? In terms of expressing sorrow or expressing regret strategically is fine. It's fine for you to do that. But saying I'm sorry, when you just bumped into someone, or saying I'm sorry when your girlfriend's upset, you're subordinating yourself to her and her emotions.
Yep. Buckling to their whims means you've lost frame. So when they're demanding that apology, it's like you just said, it's a forced apology. It doesn't really mean anything. You're just saying the words because you're trying to appease them. Appeasement is
100%.
not how you get over this.
Mhm.
So that's where the sorrow and regret comes into play. This is really interesting too, because this whole concept transcends what we're talking about as far as dating and relationships. This is how people should be.
Yeah, this is
just
just
normal human.
adulting 101.
Exactly. Is there any other comments on this particular thing? And folks, don't forget, I just had a thing right here. So if you have not yet, please hit that like button. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And then drop comments down below. We'll get to them in order. If you're just going to watch along, that's fine. And also, don't forget, I have a link down below as well. Now, we have a podcast over on, I think, Podbean. So we can only do so much at a time per month. So if you would like to help out and unlock the full feature set, head on over to Patreon. We've got a link down below. That helps us pay for the Podbean to get all of the shows uploaded and hosted forever and ever. And then
lastly, after the show, definitely want to hit us up on Discord. Anything that you haven't got, that we didn't cover or that you didn't get answered in the regular show. Obviously, there's a different time, that we normally do, but for sure, jump on the Discord, and hopefully you won't have to listen to the sounds of me falling asleep and snoring. I'll fully own it. It's when I stay up past my bedtime, sometimes I fall asleep. But we actually want you guys' input, and we want to know this is valuable. So for sure, jump on the Discord. We'll get your questions answered.
And speaking of input, we have a poll up right now on the community channel trying to figure out what time would be best suited for you. We are trying 5 today. We'll maybe do 7 next week. So that seems to be the leading answer in the poll. So we'll go from there. But yeah, it's all up to you guys. This is for you. This show was made for you by your request. So let us help you by hooking us up with some data, okay?
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't for us. Like this, a lot of this stuff we've covered. We know. So speaking of things that we're well versed on, we're going to jump into number
9. I love this one. Connect with your emotions. We talked about this before the show, and I'm a big fan of adventure and excitement. Now, we talked about the caveat to this. Now, excitement doesn't always have to be positive. A lot of women will make drama because it's exciting, and that is not necessarily a good thing. But the point being is that if you're always seeing drama, and it doesn't have to be positive, it's always just something for they're generating excitement for excitement's sake, that can be a red flag. Not always, but often. But the point I'm trying to convey here is that adventure, excitement, these are positive emotions that women just soak up. They just soak it right up.
They crave strong emotions, and just whether they're positive or negative, they have to be strong emotions.
Mhm.
If you don't believe me, go watch The Real Housewives of Orange County. Any of the Real Housewives, go watch the Kardashians, because you want to talk about a gaggle of women who don't have any real I mean, talking about significant, like they've got first world problems, but they don't have any real world problems like I'm dealing with a global pandemic, right? Like I can't get fresh water or food. I'm not talking about that stuff. Those people that have real problems have real problems. These women will create problems. They'll create stress. They'll create drama. They'll create emotions because they have to feel validated. They have to feel emotionally validated. So they'll create a situation where they're feeling a negative emotion just for somebody to go validate it, or feeling a positive emotion just for somebody to go validate it. So to tie it back to this number 9, what I love about this one is I actually want to read this, if you don't mind, Joe.
Go for it.
Set yourself apart from other men and connect with a woman's emotional landscape. Her mind is an alien world that requires deft navigation to reach your rendezvous, and frolic in the surf of emotions rather than in the arid desert of logic. Let me say that again for the guys that are in any kind of relationship. Frolic in the surf of emotion rather than the arid desert of logic. That is super powerful, it's super colorful, and it should create an impact. And what that means really, the next few sentences talk about be playful, be exciting, be adventurous, let your feelings roam. Right. And when you talk about emotional validation, that is sharing and connecting with those feelings. But in a masculine way, in a way that is subordinate to your mission and your own priorities as a man.
Yeah, it's solid stuff. I'll tell you what, Royce or Curtisi, whoever he goes by these days is very well written.
Beautiful language.
Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, the key takeaway here is, like it says, connect with her emotions. You need to be that emotional rock, but at the same time, you've got to validate her emotions and yourself be exciting. Mm-hmm. Just a little pro tip. One of the best kind of first dates you can do are things that lend towards creating excitement. One of my favorites of all time, indoor rock climbing.
We talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Whenever they fall off the wall, you got them. If you're going to belay, you get that jolt of emotions. And it's also really, really awesome for comfort building because in a way, you just kind of save them. So you are the protector and provider all rolled into one. A lot of quality, good stuff that you can get out of that.
So let's dissect that. We got a little bit of time for a second. So when you talk about a great first date material, great date material in general, you want to create excitement, right? Rock climbing, they don't know if they're going to fall, maybe hurt themselves. That creates excitement. Now, it's not positive or negative, but that's just exciting because I don't know what's going to happen. That's a natural anxiety of, unless they're a pro rock climber, I guess. But most women, the average woman, you take them out to rock climbing, and they're not going to know exactly what the outcome is going to be. That creates natural excitement. The other piece, when we first talked about this, is they're going to begin to take direction from you. If you've done this before, you can kind of be the master. You can be the mentor in that sense. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, you're evoking that natural leadership that automatically fosters that captain and first officer, that first mate dynamic. So it's everything rolled into one in these kinds of dates. Also, you get the baked in excuse to look at their ass the whole time. So
that's huge. Yeah,
I'll leave it there. But it's
why not?
And it's a nice filter. This is the kind of if you want fit women, you're not going to get large marges on a rock wall. All right,
you're pre-selecting. Like as a guy,
screening. Yeah,
you're automatically screening. You're screening for compliance. You're screening for some level of I care about my health, right? Like some level of investment of because again, most women do not rock climb. So if she's going to go out of her comfort zone and go under your leadership, as I've been rock climbing a few times, you're going to come with me and you're going to trust that I've done this and you haven't, then that is, again, she's going to subordinate and say, like, you're the person that's done this and I'm going to take my lead from you. You're screening for a lot of really great qualities that you frankly should be screening for. And the caveat there is, as Rollo has said, desire is the best thing to screen for, but there are other things there that you should consider.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be rock climbing. It's just one example of many. It could be anything from anything.
Great example. It could be mountain biking, right? If you're a mountain biker and you're taking your woman on a date and she's never been mountain biking, or your other example was going to the gun range, right? Like shooting some guns. That's a great example. There's a lot of those, and that's And by the way, women eat this stuff up. And the reason why is most guys just want to take a woman out to dinner or a movie. And it's so far outside the mainstream.
Well, the main problem with this is that most guys see dates as a means to an end to get laid. Now, that might be true, but there's good ways of going about that, and there's not so good ways of going about that. What we're trying to do is to connect with the emotions. This way you can build that commonality, build those connections that are real, and get things moving in the right direction. And again, it also hinges on you being that non-reactive, that anchor in more ways than one. That this way you can give the emotions to them, validate their emotions, like you said, and not be overly reactive and overly emotional in your own right. So, because a lot of the reasons that women do, if we go back to the previous one, saying sorry when it's necessary.
Yes.
Where's it at? I think we skipped it. Nope. You get the idea. You don't want to be getting frazzled by their emotional outbursts, because a lot of that is just basically a shit test.
You hit on such an important point, and that is women want you to validate their emotions. They don't want to experience all of yours.
Bingo.
Right? They don't want to have to, actually, excuse me. They may be fine experiencing them. They don't want to manage your emotions.
Well, this is where I said you got to be that rock, that mirror that they're going to absorb the calmness from, in a sense, when they're getting frazzled. A good example. So, girlfriend or wife, she comes home, something happened at work, she's all pissed off, and she's going to rant. You don't want to become Mr. Fix-It, getting all energized and energetic and feeding into all of this crazy drama. You want to acknowledge what happened. Okay, well, how do you feel about that? Get some feedback, and then just calm her down. That's it. You just don't get reactive. You acknowledge what happened, and that's the end of it.
Women want to be heard and understood. They don't necessarily want you to solve their problem for them. Go watch the "It's Not About the Nail" YouTube video, because that's, that was a popular video that circulated years ago, but it's super relevant. It's women just want to be heard and understood. They don't want you to fix their problem, right? And there's two reasons why that's the case. Is number one, a strong alpha guy knows that he doesn't need to fix women's emotional problems, right? But secondly, is your aloofness, your distance of saying like, "Oh, honey, I can see how that's really challenging. Like that must be tough to deal with," right? And then go do your thing. The second piece of it is that distance. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but that emotional distance, I'm talking about, don't be an autistic robot, right? There's my caveat. But that a little bit of emotional distance of let them deal with their own emotions, let them solve their own problems, because, let's be honest, you're not their daddy, right? You're not there to actually fix their emotions. You're there to relate to them and understand them. You're there to connect with them, not fix them, right? So but the first part of that is an alpha guy wouldn't do it. And the second piece of it is you're crippling them. You are absolutely putting them in a position where they rely on you to fix their problems. And if you foster that in your relationship and continue that cycle, it's at your own peril. And ask me how I know.
All right. Yeah, we can go on and on about this. I do want to kind of move things along just a little bit.
Yeah, I took a little bit of time on that one, but please.
So that was 9. So 10, ignore her beauty. This is pretty straightforward. Giving people accolades on something they didn't have to work for is an unearned compliment, and there's no real weight behind it. And if anything, it kind of tips your hand a little bit that you're just kind of blowing smoke up their ass. You're telling them, I like you for a reason you had nothing to do with. Will you have sex with me now? This is the whole, I think Chris Rock, do you want some dick? So yeah, avoid that as much as you can. Now there's a time and place that you can compliment something that they did to enhance their looks. If it's actually something that's genuinely that you like, maybe she wears a sundress that shows off her curves and you really dig it. Give her a compliment, but you don't tell her you got a great ass. I love your eyes. It's like, well, they were born with them. They didn't do anything to earn it.
But that's the thing.
Earned compliment.
You can compliment things that are beauty adjacent. You can compliment their sense of style. You can compliment the way that they, styled their hair, right? Like that. That's a whole different thing, right? But the reality is, it's fine. Look, the short version of this is find something better. Find something better is, oh, I really like your sense of humor, or you have an interesting take on this. Like, I'm interested to hear more about what you thought about X, right? Like,
And we're going to go into this in detail in the Gift of Gab portion of the class later on about improving SMV. That's about 2 weeks from now. We should be getting into that. We'll cover sexual marketplace, what it is. We're going to define it and cover a lot of the background next week. I believe the next week after that is when we'll actually start getting into the improving one's SMV. This is what would typically be your PUA courses, kind of, sort of.
It's kind of like the boot camp. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that'll be the boot camp portions coming up in a few weeks.
Yep. But getting back to the beauty piece. So when you talk about ignore her beauty, it sounds simple to find something else to compliment, but the reality is, it's too easy because men value aesthetics. Women don't value aesthetics as much as men do, and that's a really obvious. That's a really obvious tell if you're a beta guy, not a high value guy. If you're an alpha, you understand exactly what women want. You understand how to relate to that, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody that doesn't just value the way that they look. They're valuing them for their sense of humor, for their what they studied, what they're not saying that their mission should be more important than yours, because that's potentially a recipe for disaster. But if they have a strong mission, or if they have they want to be a lawyer, if they have strong views on XYZ, it's always easy to entertain that and say, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I think your take on that is interesting for these reasons. And you can entertain that without subordinating yourself to them. But the point there is just find something else to compliment, honestly.
Yeah. And a good way to kind of get around this is they talked about this in Yes, with Robert Cialdini, and Persuasion, and in some of his other books. It's called The Justification. Adam Lyons talks about this in one of his courses. When you justify why you're giving them a compliment, it holds so much more weight than when you don't. So it doesn't even, and if you even are making it about their looks, justify why it's important to you. That alone can make a world of difference. And I don't want to go into this too much more, because again, we're going to talk about this later on in the course.
But how about a quick example?
Okay. Well, the tried and true is the justification about asking for a favor. Wanting to, I think it was just asking for a seat on a train or something like that. Mm-hmm. Can I get do you mind if I sit there? Blah. No justification. I think it was about 25% said yes. Mm-hmm. When you say, do you mind if I sit there? I've had a really rough day and my back is killing me. It was, I think 75% said yes. Mm-hmm. And depending on how big of an ask it is, a non sequitur for the justification can be just as successful as not, or as a really meaningful justification. So if it's just, So if it's, do you mind if I get in say you're like in a line at the bar, do you mind if I get in there? I got to get that napkin.
Yeah.
That's fine. No one's going to really block you from getting in there usually. If you say, do you mind if I get that? My leg fell asleep. Has nothing to do with why you need the napkin.
Guy's got to get this napkin.
Yeah. Disconnect. They might think afterwards, like, what the hell? But by then it's already been granted. But if you say, if you want to skip all the way to the front of the line and it's a really big line and you're just making up a bullshit excuse, they might see right through it. And it's like, no. But yeah, I'll have to cite, it's a really good book. Yes, Robert Cialdini. I'm probably butchering his last name. It was him and a couple of other guys. Persuasion, Preselection. Preselection, it's Persuasion, I think is what it was. Persuasion, and Yes are his 3 books. All good stuff. All of the sources are in there. I'll have to dig them out. It's chapters 30 through 33. And Yes. But anyways, I don't want to go too far because we're getting off track, I think. Getting back to this. Oh, we already did number 10. 11.
Irrationally self-confident. Be irrationally self-confident.
Yeah, so I posted this picture a long time ago. We've got it in the it's on TRP actually, but it's in the Patreon website account. It's a big old circle of where the magic happens, and then there's a little circle over here where you're at. So you got to get those big steps and get out of your comfort zone. So when you are irrationally self-confident, you're getting out of your comfort zone usually, and you're taking these big, huge steps of boldness that you've probably never done before. And when you first start doing this stuff, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Guess what? Life's not fair. Get over yourself. You got to get out of that comfort zone. You've got to start being more bold than you already are. Now, there's good ways and there's bad ways of doing this. Bad ways are going to get yourself arrested or slapped or hit or whatever. Good ways are when you're going to get more playful reactions. And again, the class is coming up. We're going to be talking about how to do this in detail. Right now, we're just saying what to do, not how to do it. So what to do is be irrationally self-confident, be bold. And I think boldness is a little bit down below, but this is right now just to talk about where he's actually at with this. No matter what your station in life, stride through the world without an apology or excuse. Doesn't matter if objectively you are not the best man or woman can get. What matters is that you think and act like you are. So for a time, you will have to fake it until you make it. But
I'm gonna steal your thunder here.
Uh-oh.
And competence breeds confidence.
There's that. And there's also another factor too. There was a good TED Talk about this where she was talking about body language, body positioning. There's alpha, quote unquote, poses you can do that when you do these things, your body, your hormones will actually respond to the poses, the faking it when you're doing it. Conversely, if you have closed body language, you close yourself off, you crouch down, you shrink, you're going to raise your cortisol levels. But when you get really open body language, you head up, you're think of like the power pose of the boss with his feet up on the table, heads above your shoulder and all that shit. When you start doing those kinds of things, your hormones actually change. So your brain will follow what your body does. So if you consciously make changes in your body language, you open yourself up, your way of thinking will slowly change with it. It's really interesting stuff.
It's really fascinating how, especially this is another one that we can deep dive into, which is ego. Whenever, you think about your brain and the messages that it sends, you talk about the two kind of parts of your brain, or there's three, but they're really the two are the animal brain and the more higher cognitive brain. When you think about how those interact, it comes down to the messages that you can tell yourself. Like you can almost program your brain in a different way. Let me explain this in a way that a leadership instructor actually gave this to me. A guy that I was in middle school with went on to be a leadership instructor, motivational kind of guy. And he talked a lot about leadership. And one of the big things that he preached on is your brain believes what you will tell it. Your brain believes what you tell it to believe. So for example, if you say, "Oh, I'm bad at remembering names," well, your brain will stop remembering names, right? And this goes to a little bit of like, positive visualization and self-fulfilling prophecy, that type of stuff. But the truth is, like, your brain is almost like software. It is designed in such a way that if you sit there and think, you know what, actually, I'm the prize. I'm a high value guy. And this is the way that I think. This is my mental model. Your brain will start to kind of, reconfigure itself to automatically bring that result up.
Yep. It's really interesting how that works. The mind is really fascinating in that respect. Where were we at with time here? Ooh, yeah, we have to kind of start scooting these along a little bit.
Number 12, maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses.
I say this all the time. I think I said it like 3 times today on the Discord.
Yeah.
Maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses. Life isn't fair. You got to do the work. Not everybody gets to be an astronaut and hook up with Victoria's Secret models.
That's it.
Tough.
You did. You posted this on the Discord today, and I love that.
Yeah. So I'm not a tall guy, but when I'm working out heavy and being able to toss women around and throw them on your shoulder or lift them up and spin them around, you get those elation, that really that peak physical excitement. Guess what? You can be 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". If you can manhandle a woman in the bedroom, especially, but in general, you can very quickly overcome the detriment that your lack of height presents. The same things, the same feelings that women get from tall men, you can evoke by being strong and being wide, being built. You wouldn't know it from seeing me right now, but I can still bench 250 just without even having really done any lifting. It's just a natural, it's just a thing. When I was doing a lot of heavy dips, without even benching, I was still doing 300 when I maxed out. Or 315.
The point is, men use their physicality.
Right. You can use your physicality to overcome a lot of physical shortcomings. People do not understand just how important this is. You got to hit the gym. You got to lift. Now, granted, I definitely could stand to lose a lot of body fat.
Yeah, this is not
Yeah.
This is not this is not negotiable, right? This is not a
Right.
when you talk about maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, everybody's got to lift, right? You
Right.
cannot be out of shape.
Now you've all seen the video of Jason Momoa where they shaved his head and they made him look skinny.
Hmm.
If that's what he really looked like,
And he rips off his arms, like,
right.
yeah,
So that's the
yeah,
difference
yeah,
between that's what even how he's 6'4",
yeah.
but if he didn't look, it wasn't physically built the way he is, his height wouldn't really have much going for him. You got to have all of that shit put together, otherwise it doesn't work. So it's the same thing. You can be irrationally self-confident. You've got to hit the gym.
Mhm.
If you're fat, do what I'm doing. You got to diet. You got to lose the weight. If you're scrawny, hit the gym, put on the muscle mass. But if you're short, you got to be strong. Sorry, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to have some
100%.
muscle on your frame. You got to be strong.
What I love about this bullet is you have to do the work. And what that consists of is if you want to differentiate yourself, first of all, to women, but to anybody, right? If you want to stand out, you need to do the work. And what that consists of is you want to be a confident person, dress better, hit the gym for 6 months, really put in the work of, feeling better about yourself, getting the sleep that you need, getting your good nutrition, getting your gym regimen set up. All of those things are going to feed into feeling self-confident, right? If you are your point about competence breeds confidence. If you know that you can walk into the gym and deadlift 500 pounds, you have that strength mentality. I am a strong person.
Mhm.
Your brain believes what you tell it, right? If you are a guy that walks in the gym every day and you are lifting heavy and you are in good shape, then what does that breed mentally? You know what? I take care of my body. I care about somebody who will take care of their body, right? So,
Oh, absolutely. Your mindset will definitely shift when you start hitting the gym. Another one also is martial arts, particularly ones that are street based, that are actual real world combat kind of based, where they're not just frou-frou-y whatever. So I'm talking about like mixed martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, Krav Maga, stuff like that actually has
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yeah.
real world applicability that you can see yourself using in a real world encounter. That's the sort of stuff that you're going to probably get a more beneficial kick from. Also, because they're way more physically demanding when you're actually trading punches in a sparring match. Boxing is another good example.
You know what's funny about that? A lot of the guys that I have talked to that do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I don't, but the BJJ guys will talk to you about they go through life with such a better frame.
Mhm.
They don't describe it in those terms, but what they describe is I just can handle whatever situation's thrown at me. And they have, because of that, have such the mental benefit of outcome independence. Like whatever situation I'm in, I'm not worried about what's going to happen because I'm prepared.
It's a quiet confidence that comes from competence. Competence breeds confidence.
Yep.
So again, life isn't fair. Suck it up, Buttercup. It's just the way it is.
And do the work.
Yep. So 13, err on the side of too much boldness rather than too little. Again, this is what we were talking about before. Where the action's at, where you're at. Whoop, take those big steps. All right. It's just, you got to get over yourself. You got to give yourself permission as well to take those steps outside your comfort zone. And it's all, again, right, like the bullet point says, err on the side of too much boldness rather than too little. Going to the commandments here. Where was it at? Touching a woman inappropriately on the first date will get you further with her than not touching her at all. If she's interested in you, granted, you got to have a lot of things lining up ahead of time first. But the point being is, and this kind of goes to ASD, the anti-assault defense. We talked about in one of the other shows where if you make a move and it was too soon, but she's still interested, it just means, oops, you fucked up. You moved a little too fast.
She's going to bump you down just a little bit.
Yeah. But if she's still there and interested in it, goes back to the IOIs. What are the three biggies? She's still there. She's still re-engaging the conversation. Mm-hmm. If she had the opportunity to leave and stayed, then you're good. So it just means the no that you experienced at that time was really just, in all likelihood, a not yet.
You just said something that's super profound.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I gotta write this down.
Yeah, no. You just said something that's super profound, which is in sales. When somebody will tell you a no, but they don't hang up the phone. No, I'm not really interested, but they keep talking.
Yeah.
Right. Or a woman that says like, oh, we're not going to have sex.
Oh, yeah.
but they will keep making out with you.
Mhm.
Guys, I'll tell you what that means. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean mixed messages. What that means is there's an escalation ladder, and you didn't proceed in the proper, direction. You didn't escalate in the proper amount of time. So there are two ways to fail at this. You escalated too quickly, which is they're going to kick you down a little bit, but they're not going to tell you to fuck off back home. There's the one for the episode. They're not going to tell you to go back home and pound sand. They're actually going to tell you like, "Whoa, killer! Like, not quite yet. I'm not quite there."
Slow your roll, but yeah.
Slow your roll. Exactly correct. Or the second piece of it is, if a woman is at a point where she is texting you and she's giving you like crazy IOIs, and she's setting up the date, and she's saying, she's actually like inserting some kind of overtly sexual stuff, then in the first 10 minutes of your date, you should be touching nipple. Like, you should be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, there's the other way to feel at that, which is that you didn't escalate quickly enough, right? The point of this is, going back to number 13, be bold. Fortune favors the bold. There's the Roman proverb, right? Err on the side of too much boldness. Please go read the escalation ladder from a Kino standpoint of know where you're at. Like, if you're out on a date with a woman and you're getting ice cream, don't you stick your hand down her pants. That's not going to work, man. Like go through the process. Like, there is a process to this stuff. Again, when you run dread, there's an order of operations. When you escalate, there's an order of operations. Like, understand that.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there, because this is going to we can very quickly get off track and find our channel disappear tomorrow if we keep going here.
Yeah. Forgive me for the F word. No, but speaking of F words, it's a perfect segue to number 14.
Yeah. If you're going to, when you have sex, you got to have good sex. If you just phone it in, you're going to quickly find yourself getting next.
Bring your A game, guys.
Always. If you can, always. They even make pills for this stuff now. Come on. There's no excuse. One thing, stop spanking it. If you need to, go into your little Wi-Fi router and just ban Pornhub, okay? Block it. Stop doing that shit. I'm not a huge fan of like the NoFap thing, but we talked about this, I think, before with how much energy you have in a day. And if your woman is got her mind on other people outside the relationship, your relationship's going to falter. If you're spending energy that's not confined to the relationship's going to falter. Focus that energy on the relationship, and you shouldn't have any problems, or you'll have far fewer problems than if you're spreading yourself too thin when it comes to sex. I think that's just a general rule of thumb right there.
Oh, totally.
Going back to what he's got here for the
number 14. Like, my notes for number 14 involve like, go read Sex God Method.
Oh, like, that's what it was. Thank you.
Lay the pipe. Just, if you're not laying the pipe, just lay the pipe, for Christ's sake. Please.
And if it's not good the first time, that's okay, because it rarely ever is. Look, don't do this whole, I'm going to practice for the future. No, don't do that shit.
Even Michael Jordan had some bad games. Just lay the pipe, guys.
Yeah.
Like, lay the pipe.
And also, don't deny yourself because you're afraid that it won't be good or you're not good. It takes practice. It's a skill, just like anything else. All right.
Yeah. It should be fun. You should be a teammate. You should be on this road to getting a good result for the both of you together. It should be fun.
Yep.
All right. Number 15.
All right. Maintain your state control, like it says in the bullet, AKA frame control. Now,
frame.
State is an old PUA term. It's it means something different to everybody, it seems like. So this is what I was talking about before. Get a little closer to the mic here. State control. You want to become that oak, that emotional rock that they can throw all their crap at and just bounces off, and then they relax whenever they see you're not getting frazzled by it. That's state control. That's frame. Maintaining frame. All right? Matter of fact, he actually says this. You are an oak tree. You will not be manipulated by crying, yelling, lying, head games, sexual withdrawal, jealousy ploys, pity plays, shit tests, blah, blah, blah. You will rain and thunder. She will rain and thunder all around you, and you will shelter her under her storm until her storm passes. That's it in a nutshell.
She will not drag you into her chaos
Yeah.
or uproot you. When you have mastery over yourself, you will have mastery over her. Period.
Outstanding. All right. Let's see. And the last one, never be afraid to lose her. Actually, I want to go right back to 15.
Mhm.
We said frame control. We said being the emotional rock.
Mhm.
Frame is everything. This is Rollo's
Oh man.
iron
Yep.
rule number 1 for a reason. Really, if you want to learn more about frame, we actually, I think, covered it pretty well in depth last week on the previous show. Iron Rules of Tomasi, episode 5. Go check it out.
We should do a deep dive on this, honestly.
Yeah,
Because frame is a big topic.
Indeed. And for those that are leaving comments, don't worry. Once we get through this this portion of the course, we're going to address those in just a moment. All right. And again, hit the like button, subscribe.
Do
on
it. Get those alerts. Honestly, like, what do you have to lose? Just hit it. I know you're going to listen to every YouTube channel where they're going to say like, comment, subscribe. But the truth is, if you're a young guy and this stuff is meaningful to you in any way, you go through dozens and dozens of YouTube channels, and this is going to be the one that's going to get you kind of a little bit closer to where you want to be. So just subscribe, and just, if nothing else, just for the notifications.
Well, there's that. And also go over to the Discord channel. We're over there day in and day out chatting away. This is the important thing. The whole reason that this channel exists is to get you guys out into the real world and putting this knowledge, these principles, into practice. That's one of the biggest disconnects I see with this community. Guys will go out, they'll read the books, they'll read the blogs, they'll watch the TV shows, they watch the YouTube shows. Then they sit on their ass on Friday nights and they wonder why nothing ever happens.
In fairness, it's tough in quarantine, man. It's tough right now.
Well, yeah, no, you know what?
But let's give them 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And after 3 weeks, I'm not gonna give them that out anymore.
That is true. And granted, the Discord channel is growing, got over 400 members now. So please come on in. Anyways, so number 16.
Welcome.
Yeah, 16. Never be afraid to lose. We kind of talked about this before. Outcome independence, abundance mentality. What's that?
Never ever be afraid to lose her. Ever.
Right. Yeah, this is so key. This is one of those things where he talks about it a little bit in 15 when they're doing the hot and cold kind of disappearing acts, guilt trips, and all this. When they're throwing all this stuff at you, if it gets to a point where enough's enough, you got to just pull your plug and walk away. You cannot be afraid. If you have abundance mentality, it won't matter because you know you're going to be able to slide somebody else into that slot just like that. So if you have that kind of power, my God, it is empowering for guys who have abundance mentality. It got to a point where I was juggling, honestly, too many women, and it's just an energy drain. So now I'm only. I don't have a girl. Let's put it this way: I don't have a girlfriend, but I have somebody who would probably be pissed off she heard me say that.
I love that.
So it's
R.I.P.
Yeah. It's you.
The reality
I've said enough.
The reality is, like, it goes back to the question of, is there too much dread? And as a corollary, when you get two women that you're dating in the same space, the question is, like, logistically, how difficult is this? And there's an answer for most guys, which is, this is kind of like more than I want to deal with. Like, so when you get in the question of, is there too much dread? The answer, if you're a high value guy and you have your head on straight and you've been doing this for a long time and you keep your options open and blah, 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 the answer is yes, there can be such a thing as too much dread. But for most guys, the answer is no. Like, just run dread, be smart about it. Like, pursue your mission, like, keep your frame under control, all that stuff.
Maintain your possible deniability.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that's, is there too much dread? That's a frame, that's a master's degree, PhD level of red pill type thing. If you're just getting introduced to this stuff, like, get your stuff sorted out for yourself.
I think we covered it pretty well. I just kind of touch more on this with Artisti's actual comment. Mm-hmm. You must not fear. Fear is the love killer. Fear is the ego triumph that brings abject loneliness. You will face your fear. You will permit it to pass over you and through you. And when your ego fear is gone, you will turn and face your lover, and only your heart will remain. You will walk away from her when she has violated your integrity, and you will let her walk when her heart is closed to you.
Mhm.
She who can destroy you controls you.
Mhm.
Don't give her that power over yourself. Love yourself before you love her. Another way of putting this is the person who is least invested controls the relationship. So
Yes.
I'd
It's a
hate to think of it. It is a
great
good term,
article by
but
Rollo. Yeah.
oh, okay. I didn't know he wrote that.
No, he did. Yeah.
Oh, so it's yeah, but it's just in general the person who you don't want to have the other person walking on eggshells and being a dick about it. But you do want to be. It comes down to state and frame. Whose frame are you operating in? So if you've got the abundance, if you've got that kind of that mentality, that empowerment that comes along with that, a lot of this stuff is going to fall into place automatically, anyways. So that's just one of the things I've learned in as things kind of came full circle. Once I got to that stage of my life, like I said, all this stuff kind of falls into line, anyways. You don't have to fake it until you make it. It just things start happening naturally.
Here's the main
So
takeaway: is this stuff was not meant to be complicated. It was meant to be
right.
super simple and natural to most guys.
At one point, it was. I don't. So there's a
It
lot of
was.
reasons why this changed. I don't want to kind of get into that too much, but
Yeah.
comments are starting to
We-
pile on here.
Yeah, we should totally take comments and jump
Yeah,
into
so
that.
why don't we go ahead and do that? We've covered the 16 commandments. These dovetail nicely and kind of gel well with the Iron Rules of Tomasi. There's a lot of overlap. If you guys haven't seen that video, we posted it last week. It's good stuff. So on to the comments. Ahab, I'm going to go ahead and read the comments as well for the podcast listeners.
Love this.
Any tips on how to remain unaffected by what women tell you? I have trouble with remaining aloof and react emotionally to critiques, etc. The answer to that is going to be abundance. That's a big part of it. And also just you're trying to disabuse yourself of your upbringing that made guys want to lock on to one girl and they get all their validation and fulfillment from. You can't really do that. There's a time and place for having that one person if that's what you want to do in life and you want to get married and have kids and build a family. And there's ways of doing that with multiple women, but that's outside the scope of this right now. Right now, we're just trying to get you to be to unfuck your head. That's two, damn it. Anyways, Get your head straight. All right. So you don't want to be overly invested in one person too soon. So investment, going back to remaining aloof, the investment level should be relatively balanced, maybe actually leaning more towards them being more invested than you. So a good tool you can use is to divest your intention across multiple things, multiple women, multiple hobbies. So if you're going to become too one-itis with one person or obsessive compulsive with one hobby, it's time to start dividing your time up amongst different things. All right.
Let me give you a great practical example of this. So when I say that Mike's rule is when I say 90% of what women say, I don't take at face value. I mean that. So my wife, for example, is a great for instance. So when she says something to me and she's expressing the emotion, something's bothering her, she's frustrated by XYZ. When you say, how do you remain unaffected by what women tell you? When my wife tells me something, she's expressing an emotion. 90% of the time, she wants to be heard and understood. And I'll sit there and listen, and I'll say virtually nothing. And I'll sit there and listen to her. And when push comes to shove with what she wants to get out of the interaction, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to solve her problem, right? I'm going to listen to what she says. I'm going to hear and understand. I'm going to say, oh, wow, that's tough. I'm dealing with this problem at work. This person did this. They for example, they waited on this project and they created an emergency on my part. And now I'm really stressed about it. And I'm going to go, oh, honey, you must be stressed about that. I can't imagine how stressed you are about that. It must be tough, right? That's the aloof piece. You are validating their emotion. You are speaking to what they're saying. You're not solving their problem. Yeah, God, that must create a real stress on you, for sure. But the point is, when you talk about the unaffected piece, There's a lot that goes into that. There's frame, abundance mentality. There's internalizing the outcome independence. There's a lot that goes into that. So to take a surface level question like that and say, how do you remain unaffected? The rubric is, 90% of what women say, don't take it face value, man. Just when they say something, have that aloof, humorous mentality. I'm a guy that likes to joke a lot. So when my woman says something, when my wife says something, I like to laugh and go like, "Oh, honey, that's hilarious. You think that?" And I'll tell you what, if it really bothers her, she's gonna go, "No, you know what? You're laughing at that, and it's not a joke for me." If it really bothers her, she'll tell you.
Indeed.
Is the point.
All right. So I just want to follow up on something I talked about a little bit ago. There it is. So there's your comfort zone. That's where the magic happens. So you've got to take those big leaps forward to get out of your comfort zone and get into that bubble where the fun happens. All right. All right. So getting into the other questions here. Rock climbing dates. This is by the plumber. Dates at amusement parks. You get the thrills as well as numerous mini dates at every line for the next ride. And if you go back to the old PUA stuff, now you're getting into
love this.
You're getting to the venue changes. I forget what they were called all of a sudden. It's the you create a fractionation in their mind of like it almost feels like mini dates. Well, he says mini dates, but yeah, you get the idea. Whenever you have a lot of venue changes in a short amount of time, it feels like you have done a lot more. So you build a lot more, the impression of a lot more comfort, or at least you can, depending on how you do it. To the 10th point. I like saying as they're walking away, I hate to see you leave, but I love to watch you go. They always look back and smile. Yeah. I also want to throw out a shout out to our newest patron. I'm going to butcher your name. I'm sorry, dude. Brulafi. So thank you for joining us. It really does help out. We will help get Mike a proper green screen here before too long.
I need new headphones. Like I got this thing held on by tape. All right, let's go back a second. 10th point. The plumber is hitting on this. I like saying as they're walking away, I hate to see you leave, but I love to watch you go. What I love about this is it is just saturated with abundance mentality. The wink and the smile and the ass slap, that should go along with this. Right. When you talk about number 10, ignore her beauty. When you say, I love to watch you leave, but I hate to watch you go, or something along those lines, you are effectively complimenting her beauty in an adjacent way, right? You're not saying, I love your ass, right? You are saying something that's a little bit more metaphorical.
You're giving yourself that plausible deniability as well by talking about something that's adjacent to the one item that you're trying to you're focused on. They know you like their ass. You know you like their ass, but you're not coming right out and saying it.
That's it. Another great corollary to this is if you're lifting at the gym constantly, you're at CrossFit or whatever, like I'm at, compliment the person that you're with and say like, oh, your form looks good. Like you're super mobile. Right? Like your mobility is great. You can get down to that squat, no problem. That kind of thing, like that's adjacent to you've got a great ass, right?
The implications there.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's super close, but you're not saying you have a great ass. You're saying, for example, if they have great eyes, you're saying like, oh, you know what? It looks like you've accentuated your eyes with your makeup. Or whatever it is. But the point is, don't overtly compliment whatever it is that they're going on. Just be adjacent to it.
Yep. All right. So let's see here. This is Neil. If I'm too floozy with women, how can I justify having an LTR with a good non-partied out woman? If you're too okay, so he's saying
James were here.
So he's saying that he's you're a man whore and you want a relationship with a woman who's not a bicycle. I got you. This kind of gets to the slut versus stud dynamic, where my favorite version of this is where it's the lock and key model, where guys, it takes a lot of work to be a master lock picker. A lock just kind of locks. It either works or it doesn't. A crappy lock is going to be very easily picked, or it's just not going to stay together in general. So for guys to be able to get that key in there and turn it every time, that takes a bit of skill. I'm butchering the metaphor, but you get the idea. So I think it's a natural kind of state that men and women are in, where guys go out, they spread the seed. Women are selective about who they reproduce with. That's just
I don't think you're butchering the metaphor. I'm going to give you a little bit more credit here. The simple fact is, when you think about, the today's content, which is women, the relationship is their responsibility.
Yeah.
Relationships are a woman's responsibility. When you think about how can I justify having an LTR with a good XYZ woman, it doesn't matter what kind of woman you're justifying having a relationship with. You are vetting. This question is all about vetting, right? Which is, what do I want? What do I not want?
Well, his question also it feels rooted a little bit in a lack of abundance. He's worrying about, what does this one person think?
Sure, perhaps.
So I can see a little bit of that in there, just a hint.
I guess.
How can I justify having the relationship with that woman? That's the key takeaway right there. Is he's trying to justify why he should date this woman despite his own history. Who cares?
100% agree. And here's where the distinction that I would like to draw is. When you think about the kind of man that you are and the kind of woman that you want to date, just divorce yourself completely from those ideas, right?
Yeah, this is a blue pill kind of raising mentality kind of raising.
That's it.
Yeah. Just get your mindset out of that.
When you say, if I'm too floozy with women, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you are with women. Just set that aside. When you can justify having a long-term relationship with a good woman, and I'm using air quotes here for the people that are on the podcast, when you want to devote yourself to a good woman, it really doesn't matter what you do. It matters what they do and what you will or will not tolerate. That really is all there is. So the point is, when you say I'm too floozy with women, completely dissect this idea of I'm this way, so women are this way. It's not cause and effect. My only advice to you is just vet for what you want. If you want a woman who's excited about you, just foster that in your relationship.
Well, it also demonstrates that there was a failure on his part at some point, because she should have no idea what his history is. It goes back to the Honorable Tomasi. Under penalty of death, they should never find out what your history was.
Yeah.
So if you know in your head and you've got some sort of complex about it, give yourself permission to go for it. This is all in your head. That's all it is. This is all in your head, because they shouldn't know anyways. It's not that big of a deal. Moving on.
We skipped through.
We did skip through. Well, he's actually got a follow-up to this. I mean, women, too, have standards. Good ones, blah, blah, blah. How can I sell myself after that kind of reputation? Again, they shouldn't know. And if they are trying to peg you on that and find out what your history is and trying to get confirmation, don't give it to them. Again, you're going to let that hamster spin a little bit. You're going to get some emotion out of that. Yeah, you don't have to confirm anything.
Go back, watch this video, number 6, create a sense of mystery, the end.
Yeah, and if you are in a small social circle where people do hear things, they might think they know you, doesn't matter. If they're excited to be with you, they're going to be excited to be with you. They will rationalize why they're with you on their own. You don't have to do that.
That's it. And the funny thing about the red pill and the YouTube broadcast is, if your situation is super unique, get on the Discord, ask us in person.
Yep. And we'll do the after show here in a little bit.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I'm going to be on there. But the point is, 95% of guys, this is what they need. Right.
Yep. And even a lot of these guys who are quote unquote alphas aren't. They might be because of their nature of celebrity or status or their money. No. In their head, they're still the dorky guy they were in high school.
That's what's hilarious. I give this example of when my wife first said, "I love you," her friend was like, "Thank God there's an alpha male here." But I'll be honest with you, I've never called myself alpha. I've never actually got in a group of guys and been like, I'm an alpha guy. It's just not a thing you do, because my ego is not that out of control.
So we're going to continue with these. I got some more examples I want to give. Gene Simmons is a really good
Yes.
example, but I don't want to get too far off. The guy lives life by his own rules, and he was one of the founders of Kiss. I used that example before, but he's rich. He's had sex with, he claims, I think 1,000 women. He has a great life, and like I said, he very hardcore, knows exactly what he wants. And anybody that's not in his life that's going to give him that's going to work towards that goal, he just cuts him out. Done deal. He's even got a couple of shows about that over the years. But anyways, the plumber speaks.
The plumber's got a couple.
Yeah. I like to use cocky funny when she's having a storm. It's the best way to get her over her negative emotions when she's laughing. What you're doing is you're agreeing and amplifying to absurdity. Probably you're treating what she's doing as a shit test, and you're taking it to a funny realm. So this all goes back to what we're going to talk about in future episodes about building comfort and rapport and breaking it, also called flirting. That's all it is. So this happens throughout our lives in many different ways. That's kind of what this all boils down to. So when she's getting all emotional and you can kind of make light of it in such a way, you're taking this energy and you're shoving it in a positive direction, not a negative direction. So that's a good thing. You're taking control of the situation.
What I love about the plumber here is that knowing a little bit about him, the simple fact is there's a difference between how you handle a shit test in an LTR versus if you're just on a first date with some woman. And if you're in an LTR or a marriage, as I am, as the plumber is, plumber's not married, but he's an LTR. The simple fact is, when you think about how you handle these things, and you are a high value guy on and you're thinking about a shit test, the simple fact is, when you run that through the processor and you're a guy like the plumber, then you have a certain, you have outcome independence, abundance, all that stuff. But the real fact is your woman is not absolutely super concerned about where things are going to be, where you're at, what the outcome is. And she's going to be subordinate to your mission. But, secondarily to that, she's going to actually feel that confidence level that most guys should have. Yeah, that most guys should have.
Yeah. So here, I had this comment up here a minute ago. The plumber, wish we would do like Rolo does and give a show announcement a few hours before you go live. All right. So I just want to put this out there right now. I did it. We had it done on Reddit. I put a tweet out on Twitter, and it got posted up on the Discord. So that's 3 different ways you guys could have found out about the show. And then also it's got it on the YouTube website as well. If you go in there and look at the upcoming episodes, you just set a reminder. And when we go live, boom, you get an announcement. It'll pop up in your little, what's it called there? That little bell. That's why you hit the notification bell. So when we do go live, you get the reminder instantly.
Can't subscribe, guys.
And subscribe.
Sure.
But yeah, and the big thing is right now hitting that the like button helps us get promoted and grow the channel and get on more guests by having more, clout. Yeah, a lot of guys, they won't come on the show if we don't have a bunch of subscribers. So we're trying to grow the channel and get that so we can bring in more people. Anywho, so going down to Mr. Kinks. I like the name. 12th point. How can I maximize a skill? Most of the time, whatever hobby I get, I end up being average in it, even if I'm consistent.
This is a great question.
So how do you become consistent? Well, or what's the word?
Proficient.
God,
yeah,
that was a good beer I had. Anyways, so how do you become proficient? Well, it's doing something about 1,000 times makes you proficient. 10,000 times makes you.
Somebody once told me competence breeds confidence.
Well, there's that too. But so he wants to maximize the skill. Well, define maximize. So, Mr. Kinks, if you're still in the chat, please post a follow-up, because what do you define as maximizing a skill? Because that can mean different things to different people.
Let me take this one, because maximizing, like, more of me talking and less of him talking is better for everybody. But the fact is, when you talk about maximizing a skill, like, have you gotten everything out of it that you want to get out of it? And when you talk about hobbies, what are you talking about? You talk about you're getting some kind of fulfillment, right? Secondly, you're getting mastery. Thirdly, you're getting purpose, right? Like, so fulfillment, mastery, purpose. Those are the three things that you should be getting out of whatever it is you do as a hobby. And if you're not fulfilled, if you're not mastering whatever it is, and if you don't have a purpose to whatever hobby you're pursuing, then that's not a hobby. That's a waste of time, in my opinion. So when you want to talk about Mr. Kinex's 12th point, how can I maximize the skill? Well, make sure that that skill is bringing you mastery, purpose, and the big piece of it is competence. When you actually get into a hobby, make sure that's actually worth your time when you're investing in that thing, and that you actually consider your own personal mission and your prioritization. A lot of people don't prioritize their time. That's a big factor of it. But that's getting a little bit in the rabbit hole.
We're going to talk about that in just about a second here, because we got one of the coming. Yeah, right here. Found it.
Yep.
How do you balance improving yourself with women, focusing on school and work? It's just like we were just talking about. One, you got to balance. Obviously, how do you balance improving yourself? A little bit every day. One of the things we used to do for homework was, before the everything locked down, 30 minutes a day, FaceTime with women who are not hired guns, who are not relatives, who are not in your social circle, who are not coworkers. Go out there and cold approach. 30 minutes a day, every single day of the week. Now, 30 minutes of FaceTime. So if you are out and about, just walking around, that doesn't count. The clock starts when you say hi, and it ends when you part ways. You want 30 minutes of FaceTime. It doesn't have to be with one person. It can be 30 1-minute encounters, 60 30-second encounters. You get the idea. So you want to build up that acumen, of that social acumen of how interactions go. That's how you become proficient with just being sociable, being an extrovert. You got to get outside that social circle, or that comfort zone, social circle. If you're an introvert, sorry, you got to do the work. You got to get out there and put yourself out in the real world and talk to people. That's what it's all about. So to speak to this question right here, how do you balance improving yourself with women with focusing on school and work? Well, what's balance? An equal amount of time. So if you're at work 8 hours a day, or if you're at school 8 hours a day, and you're only doing 30 minutes of FaceTime with women, obviously you see where you're lacking, where you got to kind of punch things up a bit. Now, there's only so many hours in a day, okay? So you're only awake for about 16 hours a day. Focus on where your time is going to be. So if you are a professional, if you're already an adult, out of school, you're working 8 hours a day, that only gives you 8 hours to go out and meet people, or if you're part-time in school, maybe you're in school for 4 hours a night. So now you only have 4 hours of free time, but you still got to do homework. So your time is going to be really curtailed to go out and socialize. So you got to be focusing on calling your shots where and when you're able to. So you got to start prioritizing is what it comes down to. Now, I did a video on this a while back. It's called Goals. Figure out what your goals are, and then you're going to small chunk the progress. That's going to dovetail nicely into what we're talking about right here. So you kind of combine those two elements together, and then you're going to have a roadmap on where you need to go. It all depends on what your ultimate goals are. So if you want to learn to become a pilot, you got to go to a school, you got to do so many hours. They're going to give you a roadmap on how to achieve that. Depending on what your goals are is going to depend on what your roadmap is going to look like, and you're going to navigate that around your day-to-day life, whether you're in school, work, or a combination thereof. So there's no one size fits all when it comes to this. But in the short term, if you can, once the world opens back up, 30 minutes a day minimum, absolutely minimum, if at all possible. That's the rule I always set. Actually, and to give credit where credit is due, that's from Adam Lyons. Moving on. What's the next one here?
What I would add is,
Excuse me.
no, you're good. The simple fact is, do what you can where you are with what you have. That's a simple caveat, right? Of nobody's gonna come. You're in a quarantine situation, or you're in the modern day of I can or cannot talk to women. But the point is, I can or cannot overcome this like little piece of who I am, and that's fine. Like, be cognizant of that, right? Avail yourself of whatever you can, but at the same time, understand your own personal mission. Mm-hmm. And when it comes back to mission, that's when I like to, step out and say, guys, like, just be yourself, understand what you want out of life, and calibrate everything back to that.
Yep. I will caveat one thing. Don't be yourself. Be the best version of yourselves.
That's perfect.
That needs to be your number one goal, in my opinion. Because when you become the best version of yourself,
hey,
everything else is going to line up for you. Indeed.
Love that.
Already drank my drink. So we do have a follow-up to all right. Where was it at here? Plumber. He actually had a really interesting comment. Mm-hmm. When she accuses you of being a player, simply say, I can neither deny nor confirm your accusation. It causes the hamster to go into overdrive.
Shit test 101.
I would word it a little bit differently, but to each their own. Yep. The key thing is go to the shit test rules. Yeah. Agree and amplify to absurdity. Do a pressure flip. You can change the subject. You can ignore them. There's a lot of different ways to go about it.
Amuse mastery.
Amuse mastery is always fun. And kind of that kind of rubs up against cocky comedy, cocky funny from David D'Angelo.
Yeah.
So, or nuke it from orbit, and depends on the situation. Let's see. Mr. Kinks, he responded. So what I meant by maximizing is mastering, like how to reach the top 1% of guitarists, for example. Put in the work. Thousands of hours. About 10,000. I think it was 1,000 hours to become proficient. 10,000 hours to become an expert, something like that. 10,000 approaches, 10,000 hours.
Let me break this down.
10,000 is the key number.
I don't play the card. I don't play the guitar. I've never played the guitar. The point is, as many guys have ever played the guitar in life, it's not important about who's played the guitar or how they've played it. Like, when you're in a situation where you have a dearth of options, like you are exposed to a lot of people, right? It doesn't matter whether so-and-so has actually played the guitar or not. It doesn't matter. It's not germane to anything you're doing. Does that make sense?
To me or to him?
No, to you.
John. In the sense of they don't care about the effort, they care about who won.
Yeah.
So, I see what he's saying though. He wants to become the best of or in that top echelon to attain the status, and that I agree with. That's a good goal in its own right, because you're going to be able to monetize it when you become a top 10 or 1%er of whatever that industry is. That's just the nature of the beast. So when you do that, you will arrive at some level of status in that niche community. So there will be some sort of fringe benefit of women making their way into that. And that's just the way it is. Look at these gamers, guys that go to these e-competitions, women flooding into these things, and they're going off of these guys. Where were they at 20 years ago when I was doing that semi-pro? So anyways, but it's the goal of what you're doing, whatever that goal is, should be for its own benefit, not because you're trying to do it to get laid. That's my point. The plumber kind of talks about, mastering something takes approximately 10,000 times of repetition. Now, here's the thing about being social. It's a perishable skill. If you go out and you do your 1,000 approaches and you get proficient at approaching and you end up in a relationship and then never approach for another year until the relationship falls apart,
what are you doing?
You're starting back at scratch at zero.
Yep.
So it's square one. because you've allowed those skills to perish. They've gone away because you took so much time off the market. This is where you need to be sociable. Once you start getting into this, you're going to realize that it's not about getting girls. This is about improving your lives in all facets, from work, social, just going out shopping. The one that blows my mind was I just started the BS with this lady at Macy's talking about the weather. And that made her day, just absolutely made her day. She gave me an instant 20% off just because I was being nice to her. Little things like this pop up in your day-to-day life in ways you'll never expect. And that's what really blew my mind right from the start. So don't do this with these ulterior motives. Do it to improve yourself as its own reward. And when you do so and you become that maximized version of yourself, you're going to see all kinds of benefits. A lot of it's going to be financial. A lot of it's going to be fringe, like I was just talking about. Some of it's going to be women. Some of it could be, who knows, professional alignments. Sky's the limit. So I think we've hit all of the comments.
I think so.
Any final questions before we head on over to Discord? And again, I want to thank our new subscriber over on Patreon. Want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank Mike and James, wherever you're out there. Sorry, buddy. I know we started a little early for you.
Love James.
Yep. So we'll have him on hopefully next week. If not, we'll figure it out. So any final thoughts?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So again, thank you again. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will see you guys over on Discord.